How's it going today? I'm glad you're here. Again, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Mr. Paul. I'm an artist and an art teacher, and I'm here to kind of give you some information about different kinds of art forms, different kind of mediums, different kinds of materials that we use to make art. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to make some paper mosaics. And I think everybody to a certain point kind of knows what mosaics are. Usually you see mosaics in, it's tile work, like in bathrooms and stuff. Have a different variety of tiles, and you can create designs out of ceramic tiles. But today, because we don't have that materials, and it's really, really more complicated, we're just going to make some paper designs using the technique of the mosaic. Just a little bit of information. A mosaic, keep in mind that a mosaic is using small material and putting it together in such a way that you create a larger design or a picture, something like a painting or something like that. And so if you don't know how tile is put together, you get like you got a bunch of tiles and you put adhesive, stuff that's kind of like a glue that's made for ceramic tile. You put that on the back and then you push it down on your wall or your floor, this kind of thing. And you leave a little tiny space in between it. Little tiny space. You never will see a collage, a mosaic collage where the tiles and the stuff overlap. They have to be a little bit separated, because once you get it down and once the tile is glued down to its surface, you use what's called a grout, and it comes in different colors. And what it is, it's kind of like it's kind of like a paste that hardens really, really hard, and you smear it on the tile and you get it into all of these little tiny lines of space in between each tile. And that's really important because that's what keeps it in place. So today what we're going to do is, I just kind of wanted to give you kind of a brief of what mosaics and how that comes together. Today we're going to work with adhesives, but we're going to work with a glue stick. And instead of using tiles or glass or pebbles or rocks or what have you, we're just going to use paper. Now you can use any kind of colored paper. You can use construction paper, you can use just all different kinds of paper. But what I like to do when I do these is I get a big sheet of paper and I get a big brush and I get some paint, whether it's acrylic paint or watercolor, something like that. You can do the same kind of thing with colored pencil or crayons too. Just make a lot of color on a piece of paper. And when I use paint, I like to keep the lines of the paint brush in them, because I think it just kind of gives it texture and a little bit more depth. So if you do this kind of concept of coloring your own paper, try that. Or use different techniques on how to apply the paint. That leaves a little bit of the white paper behind. To me, I find that a lot more interesting. And it kind of even personalizes your artwork even more, which I always think is kind of cool. And so once you get these papers, and again, you don't have to use that. You can use colored construction paper or colored copy paper. It doesn't really make a difference. I just like to make my own painted paper to cut out. So once you do that, it's time to cut out your tiles. And in this case, cut out your paper. I would try to at least make them this big, right? Not any bigger. It gets even rougher if you go smaller. But if you want to do that, that's cool too. Or a combination of them. You could have some bigger ones and some little ones. But if you make them into squares, and I want to show you how I've done this. Okay, when you cut out your paper to make squares, what I do is I get a piece of paper that's got a real even surface on one side, and I try to make this piece of paper approximately the same thickness all the way down, right? And instead of doing one at a time, I know that I kind of do that sometimes, but what I do is I'll cut 2 or 3 out at a time, and then I'll put them together like this, right? And then I will cut my squares. Again, if you've never done anything quite like this, I would really kind of go with at least this size, because it can become kind of confusing if your pieces of paper are really, really small. So anyway, this is how I cut my paper out. And now again, if you like doing this and you think it's fun and it's interesting, then you'll find your own way. You'll get your own way of cutting your paper and getting what you want. And obviously that's the best way once you get the basics down. And really that's kind of what we're doing today. Now, once you get your paper painted and cut out, the next step is to create what is called a cartoon. Now, when we think of cartoons, we think of the comics and stuff like that. But even back before Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci and all of those great artists from the Renaissance, they use that term too. It's not like a modern term. A cartoon is the basic design of what you want your picture to look like, right? And so again, because this is just kind of a demo of this kind of thing, or some of you, I hopefully are doing this at home or at school, but what I'd like for you to do is to create a simple design. It could just be a design. It doesn't have to be a picture of anything. It can just be some simple designs. I'm just trying to make this as easy and as straightforward as I can. You can get more intricate in doing stuff. So a cartoon is the design that you want. So what I'm going to do is I've decided to what I'm going to do is this section right here, I'm going to do in this blue, right? And as I've said many times in my videos, is don't skimp on the glue, meaning use a lot of glue, okay? And you just put it on there like that. Again, keep in mind, try to keep a little bit of paper around each one of them. And I tell you what, it's really kind of interesting. The history of mosaics literally goes back thousands of years. They have 4 and 5 and 6 century-year-old mosaic floors, literally all over the world, Europe, the Middle East, in Asia, that date back. So people have been making mosaics for a long time, and not just out of ceramic tile. They've used real gemstones, they've used glass, they've used even little tiny pebbles, right? And so anyway, this is a really easy it looks like it's complicated, but it's really not that complicated once you get your basic design, and once you get your paper cut in the pieces that you've decided to use, whether it's rectangles or squares or even circles, right? You can do it any way that you want. And so this is something that I have done. In fact, years ago when I was a teenager, just going into high school, I had this great poster of Jimi Hendrix, who was real famous at the time, great guitar player. And instead of putting it up on my wall in my bedroom, I cut them into little pieces and made a mosaic of that poster. Cut it apart, put it back together, and I loved it, but I put it directly on the wall, and I got in trouble with my parents. But anyway, that's another story. This painting back here is not necessarily just a painting, but it has been put together in a mosaic style. If you can see it with any clarity, it's all a bunch of little tiny squares that make up this rose picture. But anyway, it's something to think about. It's something that's easy to do. But anyway, this is just kind of a taste of a mosaic design. They also do these kinds of things in stained glass as well. So anyway, try this out. It's easy and it's kind of relaxing too, I think. And but anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, kind of giving you a little tip on this kind of stuff. And until next time, until I see you again, peace.